I'm standing here in front of a very interesting E12. It has quite the story to tell. Today we're going to have an episode dedicated to the storytelling of these glorious cars of the past and the very interesting, funny, sad, and all of the above stories that they tell. There is a lot going on with this car, and I'm going to try to tell you guys the story of it from day one up until this point, because I actually have the documentation for it. So this is going to be a little fun glimpse into the 40+ year history of one of these cars. So when I said this car was special, I meant it's special because it actually has a Korman built engine in it. If you guys aren't familiar with what Korman is again kind of like Metric Mechanic, a old school engine building company that built really precise, that's kind of what they preached, was super precise, the best machining available, hand built. They would do factory rebuilds, they would do modifications, they would do turbo stuff, a lot. So Korman's a really OG brand. They've been around for a long time, and this is a Korman engine. We have all the paperwork to prove it. So before we dive in here, we'll go inside and we'll actually read through what this build is alleged to be, and then we'll come back out here and we'll kind of look around the bay, and we'll, I think, maybe pop the valve cover to actually ensure. So similar to what we did with the Metric Mechanic 535 E34, we'll do here. We'll kind of see what's going on here. All right, I got the GoPro chest mount on so we can get a good glimpse around the car. I think you guys maybe enjoyed this in the last E12 episode. So we're gonna walk around and first just check out what we have here, right? The paint looks like a chalkboard. We have actual chalkboard on the car here. You can see sign here. Some nice artwork from the previous owner's child, but you can see we just have a very, very odd looking, you know, despair sort of E12 here. We got a rotted out trunk, and I mean like a rotted out trunk. Looking in here, I've never seen the cowl of the trunk rot away. Never seen such a thing. The floorboards, the back there, I mean, how does it get that bad? Seriously, how does it get this bad? Let's see what the spare tire well looks like. A couple holes to the ground. Brand new thermostat housing in there, that's nice. But yeah, I mean, it's missing bumpers. It's got holes in the door. Let's take a look at this. Have you ever seen something that bad? My God, is that quite the sight to see right there. The sunroof is rotted away. You can see into the mechanism of the sunroof. That is the most horrendous thing I've ever seen. The window seal, I don't know what happened to it here. This doesn't look factory. I'm not sure what's going on. Rot all around the windshield. And furthermore, and coming around the front, missing her bumpers, leaking a little coolant. We have these very interesting plastic shields, it looks like, over the headlights. You can literally break them away, and then there's your glass headlight. I don't know if this was an old option back in the day to protect your headlights or what, but yeah, we have quite a sad, very, very sad external or exterior E12. Here's the other side of the sunroof assembly. I mean, just horrendous. Looking on the inside of this car, again, probably just about the worst I've ever seen. So much of the carpet was cut out for whatever reason. This was a black interior car, again, rare. It sucks that all these black interior E12s just get devastated because it's kind of a biohazard in here. If you look up at the sunroof, that is all mold, so I'm gonna avoid to be in here, but you can see there, holes in the floor, and we literally have the entire floor panel is separating right there. I have never seen something this bad on a E12 or any BMW for that matter. And the center console kind of has an interesting look here. If you look in here, we have a voltage, temperature, and a vacuum gauge. These are aftermarket. These are because of the Korman stuff. So I don't know if this is all stock or not. This is a I don't know, it's an intermediate year because it's a 530, not a 528, but it doesn't have the early hood. So it's kind of like a I think it's a 78 or a 77. But yeah, so it is a 5-speed swapped car because of all the Korman stuff. They obviously did some cool things and put a 5-speed in it. Otherwise, in the interior, I mean, just look at the rust. Like what happens? And what's crazy is this car was sold brand new in Georgia, and it lived its whole life in Georgia. I literally shipped it here from Georgia. How does a Georgia car get this bad? The quick story from the guy I bought it from is, I guess whoever had it in their possession had it under a car cover. But that's still, like, even being under a car cover and maybe getting super humid and the cover trapping the humidity, I feel like this stuff doesn't happen. But I could be wrong. If it's been decades in a humid climate, that may have caused this. So the only other cool thing in this interior is what I believe would be a in volante steering wheel. Super rare, pretty expensive steering wheels, obviously when they're not demolished like this, but nonetheless a cool piece. And we have a hub to fit it onto an E12, and that's actually metal. That's an interesting metal steering hub. The odometer says 69,000 miles. If that's true, that is insane. I can't imagine that to be true. That's insane, 69,000 miles. I don't know, maybe it is, because the guy said, oh yeah, he just had it sitting under a cover. And I still find it hard to believe that a car could get this messed up sitting under a cover. But I mean, Georgia's humid. If it was just sitting in a super humid cover that just kept moisture in here, I could maybe see the car getting rotten from the inside out, which it looks like is what happened here. But still, like, this car is worse than, I don't know, maybe Sea Air. But this car is worse than most Midwest cars I've seen. You know, subframes and stuff I'll see once I start parting it out. Ultimately, yes, we are going to be parting it out. So now this is the very cool part of this E12. The history dating back to the window sticker. So first off, we have the original handbook and all of this stuff, the, whatchamacallit. So owner's handbook, the BMW service booklet, another service booklet, and then a Sears speed control, which a lot of E12s have this, and I guess it's a period thing. This is like the cruise control that you would add on like its own stock or whatever. Kind of interesting. But that stuff is cool. Nothing super special there. What's very cool about this car is there's some of the Korman documentation. Boom. Original window sticker. So you could see BMW Bavarian Motor Works of North America, delivered to BMW South in Miami, Florida. So it's a 1977 530i Polaris over black. Suggested retail price $12,495. Luxus conversion GRP 680, Luxus Sport GRP 870. I don't actually know what those would be. Dealer prep charge $150, federal excise tax on tires and tubes $13. Anyway, total suggested retail price $14,533. And then there's all your standard equipment: 3-liter overhead cam, 6-cylinder, front ventilated brakes, blah blah blah. And then this is the original dealer sticker. It was, I guess, Dale Critz. And they called it 530i Luxus, so like luxury package maybe? I'm not sure what that means. Maybe you guys can help me. But I believe this is the original like sale document. Yeah, 328, 1977. But like to have this, I mean, that's insane. Yeah, cash price $13,000. So this guy was a baller, bought this thing cash. This is pretty much the dealership paperwork, and it stuck with the car. A car as destroyed as that has all these crazy documents. I mean, it is so cool. Not only that, ultimately, we also have some funny things in here, which you might not be able to read, but this is a divorce, basically, demand letter. And there's a few things in here like major medical insurance on each child, I'll pay half, life insurance policy, child support monthly, I will agree to very liberal visitation rights, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's sad, but holy crap, to have a piece of paper from the 80s or 70s, you know, about a divorce is hilarious. And I think the key here is to know that when you spend the same amount on engine work on your E12, your wife will probably divorce you. So I don't want to show off this guy's information, but we have all the Korman stuff right here. All of their parts. We have shrick cam, which back in the day, $481. Fuel injection harness, another, I don't know why there's multiple shrick cams on here. Exhaust manifold, gaskets, all that sort of stuff. Rocker arms, so yeah, we should have Korman rocker arms on here. That's, I'm not sure what this is, but like look at these subtotals. $6,750. That's half the MSRP of the freaking car was spent in, let's see, 1984. So when the car was about 6-7 years old, this guy spent half the value of the car on engine work. And that's not even all of it. There was still more. Here, Alpina key fob, spark plugs, you know, clutch assembly, stuff like that. But then what's really cool about the Korman stuff is we have more Korman sport springs. So I guess the car actually has Korman springs on it, which is also cool. And it definitely sits a little lower. This is where this gets really cool. Handwritten notes from Korman, basically explaining the process of the build of the car. We have removal and refitting of the engine, install engine on dyno and make initial dyno runs. Like how crazy is that? They dyno tune these engines. Dyno runs to check the Beaconwood electronic control unit, 316 shrick cam and altered airflow meter. Remove cylinder head, change the camshaft, and installed Korman rocker arms. They now installed a shrick 292. I guess the 316 shrick was too gnarly. Match ported intake manifold, replaced the fuel injectors, reassembled cylinder head, reinstalled cylinder head on engine, remove engine from dyno first time, reinstall engine on dyno second time, tested the airflow meter. Okay, so they fitted a 733i fuel injection pieces and the air meter. Okay, so you know that might be why they called it a 533, because it had 733 parts on it. But from what I'm reading here, it doesn't sound like it was bored or stroked or anything. Final dyno tune was shrick 292 cam and the Beaconwood control unit. Yeah, I don't know if it has a Beaconwood control unit, because the only control unit aside from the stock one I had in there was this. And maybe this is it, but unfortunately it was sat out in the elements and I think it's kind of junk. But I would say this probably isn't a stock ECU. It's got some numbers on it, so who knows? That might be the old Beaconwood. The most dead giveaway is, of course, the Korman Stahl headers. Those are, in fact, still there. You could tell that's definitely not stock manifolds. I have the AFM out, but we had a silicone intake thing here, which that's not really old school, so I'm not sure when that would have happened. You know, we have these, you know, silicone wires that are, you know, performance upgrades. And then otherwise, we have some pretty upgraded like fuel lines, I guess. The injectors look to me like they're upgraded or more modern than E12 injectors would normally look. It's got like braided fuel lines on it, which is interesting. But otherwise, you know, from the outside, it again looks like a stock engine. But I think we need to get in there, and that's when we'll start to see if this is actually, you know, a serious Korman engine, which again, I don't suspect it not to be, but we'll check it out anyway. All right, so let's dive in here and actually see for ourselves what's going on under this valve cover. Again, M30's about as easy as it can get. Okay, I don't see anything that says shrick off the bat. Korman rocker arms. These are always so hard to tell. I mean, so the head should be port matched, but we can't tell that from here. We should have a shrick cam. We should have Korman rocker arms. But where would you see if they were Korman? I see a 12. And I will say they don't look like stock rocker arms, and they're not marked Febby. But I don't see any branding on them. Huh. Man, another case of we don't know. Shouldn't there be a shrick marking on this camshaft? I see another, BMW marking. The Metric Mechanic E34 was supposed to have a shrick and it said BMW. This also was supposed to have a shrick and says BMW. Do shrick cams not say shrick on them? I'm really having a hard time understanding that. Or is this just not the M30 that it once was? And someone kept the Stahl headers on there, but nothing else. And that would be a bit disappointing. But I guess we can't really tell. Another inconclusive checkup. That sucks. Plus I'm freezing my ass off out here. I do have actually a clip of when this did run. I'll throw it in. You guys can see it running and it sounded mean. The headers sounded sweet, but unfortunately, and I took it for like half a drive and then the trans was whining and I said, all right, never mind. Unfortunately, since then, it no longer runs anymore. So we can't drive it. Even if we could, it's a biohazard inside. I have to wear a mask just to sit in there. So we wouldn't really be able to drive it together. So unfortunately, the best I could do for you guys is just this footage of me firing it up and revving it. And it sounded cool. So it did run, but now it's not running anymore. And I don't have the time to try to get it running for what? Because I'm gonna be parting this car out, so. And there we have our little story showcase on this sad fate E12. I absolutely hate seeing E12s of this, just get to this point. I love E12 so much. It seems like so many of them just got left to become this. This car, I forgot to mention, it had a lot of cool parts on it. It had Euro bumpers, it had an Alpina spoiler, it had Alpina key fob, Alpina shift knob. This car was decked out once upon a time. And now, even though I'm a little uncertain about the engine, it obviously, the records and the names matched up. It did for sure, if it isn't still right now, which I feel like it still is, but who knows. This guy spent, I think after adding up all the receipts, which we didn't just do, it was around like 12, 13 grand in engine work on a car that MSRP'd at 13, 14 grand. In the 80s, that's a lot of money. That's the equivalent of like $46,000 in engine work today. This guy was a baller. That's probably why his wife divorced him, because she said, you're spending all your money on this 530i. And he said, you just don't get it, babe. This is it. And yeah, I mean, unfortunate. I really can't understand how a car that was so cared for, obviously, and so loved and modified got to this point. Again, I'm sorry we can't drive this thing because I'm sure all this Korman engine with the mods would be absolutely badass. But I bought it obviously to part it out and to hold on to the parts for maybe a rainy day. I think maybe throw this engine into a different car and continue its life, depending if it's actually a true Korman, which maybe once I pull it, I'll dig into it deeper. But I just want to give you guys a quick little rundown, a quick little story. I know we didn't really accomplish anything here, but part of my channel is keeping the history of BMWs alive and sharing the stories that they have to offer. And a car like this has a story, and I hope that we kind of went through the story, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. So unfortunately, a sad fate with this one, but I mean, what do you expect me to do? This is pretty horrible. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next episode.